Now, you heard a lot, maybe too much, from me and Damon last night on the post-game show without Saul joining in. So what did Tommy Lloyd have to say? And we have our Big 12 tier rankings updated for this week, and there's a lot of motion. Trust me.
Welcome on into the AZ Wildcats podcast, live from Studio K, presented by our friends over at Circle K. It is I, your host of the podcast, Damon Fairall.
It is I.
A.K.A. Damon Dog. He is he, Kevin Thomas, a.k.a. Kevo Post, and we are the AZ Wildcats podcast, coming to you live from PHNX HQ3 in lovely, beautiful downtown Phoenix. And of course, we are presented by our presenting sponsor of Branded Bills. Head on over to brandedbills.com. Check out the ultimate custom headwear and apparel. Check out the premium headwear and apparel when it comes to Arizona Wildcats headwear over at brandedbills.com, and use our promo code of BBPHNX to help get yourself 15% off on your first order, Kevin. It's a great promo code. It's the best promo code you'll get when it comes to getting a great selection of Branded Bills hats, which are just taking over the headwear scene. And of course, speaking of taking over the game, the scene, you name it, the Big 12, the Arizona Wildcats have a 2-game established lead in the Big 12 conference, which is the gauntlet of all gauntlets when it comes to college basketball. And Arizona has established themselves a nice lead here. You win the game against Baylor last night. We have a chance to sleep on it, reflect on the game. Kevin, it was a tight one, a tight contest between a Baylor team that hasn't had a very good season, but a Baylor team that has more talent than their record would suggest. We saw that in real time last night. Arizona ends up with the W nonetheless. And now you got 3 games remaining: Kansas, Iowa State, and Colorado to finish this thing out. You got to win one of them, and you'll at least have a share of the Big 12 regular season title when it's all said and done.
Man, that win last night, now that I've slept on it, I know I felt good about it last night, as we talked about on the postgame show. You know, all things considered with the way that this team was coming into that game, and this, we talked about, we're going to get to it more with the tier rankings, but a lot of these teams in the bottom of the Big 12 are dying to play spoiler to somebody. Dying to play spoiler to a top-ranked team so that they can maybe make it into the tournament themselves. Mm-hmm. So they can maybe get some momentum going for, I mean, let's just call a spade a spade. Generally, outside of maybe like 4 or 5 programs, I think every team could win the Big 12 tournament, right? Because there are going to be some teams at the top that maybe it's not their end-all, be-all, right? Like Arizona, that's not the end-all, be-all for Arizona. Houston, same thing. Iowa State, same thing. Texas, well, maybe not Texas Tech. But you know what I'm saying? Like, there are programs that the end goal is much further, and they know they're going to be there. But like Baylor, TCU, West Virginia, Cincinnati, like these teams that still have a fighting chance at making the tournament and maybe making some noise if things go their way, you got to get through that Big 12 tournament first. And I think we're seeing with teams like Baylor, Cincinnati, that they're ready to play spoiler if called upon. I know that, you know, we made a lot about how I felt specifically that Arizona, even without Koa Pete and Dwayne Aristote and a hobbled ADO, had enough to beat Baylor. Now, it did end up being that way. Baylor made it very close, to your point. Like, Cam Carr went nuclear on us last night, and I think, as we're going to get to with some of these clips from Tommy Lloyd, he had every reason to do that. Now, Arizona probably should have did a better job at stopping him, but there were so many scouts in that building watching Cam Carr, Braden Burries, Jaden Bradley, Mo Krivas, Ivan Karchenkov, like Tunde Yesufu. I'm running out of breath. Like, the amount of future NBA talent on the court last night was unbelievable. Not to mention Koa Pete and Dwayne Aristote didn't even play. Dwayne Aristote didn't even travel with the team. And those are 2 guys I think we can all agree will one day be playing professional basketball in the association. So I think that, you know, all things considered, coming out of last night, I feel really damn good about that win, because now, as Tommy Lloyd's going to get to say in one of these clips, you get a couple days of rest and relaxation, right back at it, and we're right back into the fire. You got a back-to-back, not a back-to-back nights, but one game against Kansas, next game against Iowa State that Monday. It's going to be insane to watch Arizona try to traverse these next 2 games.
Why don't we hear from Tommy Lloyd in regards to what he had to say about Arizona's upcoming schedule and Arizona's win against Baylor?
It's a great basketball game, and we knew it was going to be tough. Coming in here, we've been on the road for feels like a week now, and obviously we had a big gritty win on Saturday, and we had to follow it up with a game that people probably thought we were overlooking, and there's no way we were overlooking this game. I have way too much respect for Scott and for Baylor. We knew it was going to be tough, and I know how much talent they have. They just, have had a tough year, but you could see when they put it together how good they really are. And, man, they seem like they had an answer for everything today, but I'm just super proud of our guys for hanging in there. And that was just a hang with it game. Hang with it. And it took incredible toughness and fortitude from our guys. And, I don't know what narrative people have about our program, but if it doesn't start with toughness, they're not doing their homework. So really proud of the guys, and just thought there was a bunch of great individual efforts that we can get into, here in a few minutes.
I mean, yeah, he references probably the next clip we're going to talk about, which is pretty damn special that we're going to get to, which is talking about the team's performance and individual performances. But I do agree with what Tommy Lloyd had to say there. And that's kind of how I felt when you and I were talking about this game in the live time. Like, the team just has to hang with it, man. Like, you and I were not necessarily going back and forth, but kind of you were expressing, I'll use the word worry about the result of the game, right? And being like, man, we got to play better if we're going to win this game. Like, I don't like what I'm seeing, which is fair and very valid. And I was coming back at you and saying, I agree. I don't love what I'm seeing, but it's a full 40-minute game, and I trust that we're the better team. And over the course of that 40 minutes, if the boys, to use Tommy Lloyd's saying, hang with it and continue to play their game of basketball, they can win the damn game. Like, Baylor is good, but they're not that good, right? And I think that, to Tommy Lloyd's point, with Koa Pete out, Dwayne Aristote out, at the end of a long road trip where you didn't have your guys and you needed some Herculean performances, you do just have to hang with it on the road against Baylor to make sure you get that win. And now you've done that, and we can look back on this game as a victory and now look ahead to Kansas as what could be a big-time victory. But, yeah, it was nice to hear Tommy Lloyd kind of just express, like, I'm cool that we hung in and won this game against Baylor. I'm not going to overreact to the closeness of it. But before we break down that clip more, I figured we might as well talk about Tommy and his reference of the team's performance and maybe a very special, inspirational, absolute Karchenkov.
But I don't know if we got our defense going, so it's not quite. So we got everything going in the second half. But you're right.
Rebounding.
But you're right. But I mean, I think these seasons are long, and these games are tough, and they can be emotional. And so sometimes, when you get punched like that, and you're on the road, it's easy to say, "Hey, today's not our day." And our guys just don't have that kind of character. And the toughness, you get from a senior leader like Bradley. The toughness you get from a freshman guard, like Burries, was incredibly special. I mean, I thought those two guys were awesome today. And then I thought Yvonne, the game might not have came really easy to him today, but he made some really key plays down the stretch with offensive rebounds and hustle. And that was inspiring to see.
That was inspiring to see. Ivan Karchenkov inspired our head coach Tommy Lloyd with his performance, and also
he has that effect on people, Kevin. I too am inspired by one Ivan Karchenkov. It's why I pray at his altar every night.
As you damn well should, and maybe that's why we're doing so well this season, you and that altar of yours. But I will say, like, jokes aside, well, I guess I got one more. I want to apologize for Tommy Lloyd's mic throughout these clips. That is not on our end. I don't know if Baylor's pop filter on their mic was faulty, or
I don't know what you're talking about, Kevin.
Or if Tommy Lloyd was just way too lean close to the microphone. But he will be popping a little bit in these clips. But either way, I think the actual thing to take away from that is a conversation you and I were having on the pregame last night, Damon, was, is this team like even susceptible to a trap game? And then what does that look like? Because I think we saw last night that the context, the things surrounding the game, the other team you're playing, that can put you in a trap. Mm-hmm. But this Arizona team is so mentally strong. They have such a good foresight for what really matters in the basketball season that I don't feel like they're ever coming into a game thinking that they're better than the other team by so much, by such a discrepancy that they don't need to play their game. I think all these dudes want to put the best tape out there possible. I think all these dudes want to win every game that they can. And I think that Tommy Lloyd saying that, yeah, it's tough, it's brutal, we've had a long week, but I'm happy that they hung with it. I don't think this team is a team that, their character is that of falling into that of a trap game. Like, I think that is a very big takeaway because that guy knows his team better than anybody else in the country, anybody else in the world, right? And so for him to be like, this character of this team is not susceptible to that stuff, I think is big. Because one thing we know about Tommy Lloyd, he's kind of careful about like proclaiming stuff about his team and being like, we're this, right? Like he kind of tells you what the identity of the team might be, what he wants to do. But I don't think he ever goes out over his skis like guaranteeing stuff. So for him to talk about the mentality that way, I think really shows where this team is locked in at.
We have a Kevin get over your skis mention. I'm going to add that to the drinking game.
Dude, I just watched the Winter Olympics, man. Give me 2 weeks to let it cycle out of my system.
Fair enough. I also, I kind of expanding upon your point, Kevin, like this was the blueprint of a trap game. No doubt about it. And you factor in the road trip, you're at the tail end of it. You're about to come back home for a big emotional game against one of the two teams that's beaten you all season long. And you're sandwiching it in between the Houston game, which was the biggest win of the season, full stop. So you got the biggest win of the season. In between, you got Baylor. And then on the other end, you got retribution, revenge game against Kansas, a team that beat you. And you know that they've had that game scheduled or marked on their calendar for quite a bit of time now since they lost that first Kansas game, right? So, I think you also factor in the bad record of Baylor, the fact that Baylor has a pretty solid home environment that can kind of get into a game and get pretty loud and impactful in that new arena that they have built in the last, 6 years here or something like that. And then you have NBA talent in the form of Cam Carr and Tunde Yesufu on the team. And I think all of these things, like it was a perfect laundry list of excuses, for lack of a better term, of why you would lose that game or why that game should be really close. And Arizona, despite having the 7-point deficit at halftime, handles business in the second half. And I do think that your point is a solid one, Kevin, and that this team, I think, we keep talking about them being almost made and molded in the way of their coach. Like Tommy is such a steady individual, right? And that in those moments, he's not sitting there going, man, this game's over, like a clown like Damon is with his white face paint and his big red nose, sitting there watching the game with Kevin being down 8 going, we lost the Big 12. It's gone right in front of my eyes.
Don't even let us into the tournament.
Yeah.
We don't deserve it.
We don't deserve a tournament berth. And Kevin's like, all right, bud, why don't you calm down a little bit? And I think Tommy's the same way. He's sitting there. He's going, not our best half. Let's get into halftime. Let's keep the deficit pretty tight. And then let's talk about what we need to adjust and do better in the second half. And I guarantee he's in that locker room also saying, like, guys, we can see we're better than them. We didn't play a clean first half. If we play our game in the second half, this one is going to end up with an Arizona W, another Arizona W. And I felt like that steadiness really showed out over the course of the 40 minutes rather than just the first half of the 20. And yeah, it was a dream start for Baylor. It was a dream scenario for Baylor to go and get a top 5 win, right? It felt like it at least. And yet, despite all of those factors, Arizona's still good enough to come out on top. It's really encouraging stuff. And I think it does show, like, can this team get hit by a trap game? Can they get bit? Because we have not seen that so far this season, and we're 27 games in?
Yeah.
They have 2 losses.
28 maybe.
28 now? You have 2 losses, and they're both to really, really good basketball teams.
Yeah, and the second one came at home in a game where, and I was talking to Gil about this earlier. Like
both of them were should have been wins.
Yes, right? Like,
yeah.
Gil asked me earlier, kind of in this same vein of conversation, so I think it really fits, right? He was saying, like, you've been very even-keeled this whole year about your team. Like, why? Like, what? Like, because, why? What makes it similar to what Espo asked me yesterday?
Gil's saying Damon's over here screaming, yelling, freaking out, and meanwhile, you're just pretty steady Eddie the whole time. What's going on there?
And then I was just like, man, like, over the course of 40 minutes, a lot can happen, right? And Gil knows that. I'm preaching to the choir. To Gil, he played D1 basketball at Wake Forest. Like, he knows what it is, right?
Gil, let me teach you a little something about the game of basketball, brother.
But my point was with Gil, like, it's 40 minutes. And I think that my team is better than any other team in the country. Mm-hmm. And if they're not, they're maybe second, right? And I think that level of trust, you have to stand on it at some point. You either believe it or you don't believe it. And I believe that Arizona is the best team in the country. So I believe that if they're playing their game of basketball, their brand of basketball, and a game that they actually care about, over 40 minutes, I think that's going to show. And I think that's what happened last night against Baylor, where you got Baylor's best punch, man. Outside of maybe Tunde Yesufu going off, right? Yeah. Or maybe like Obi Agbim contributing a couple more shots there. You got Baylor's best punch. Specifically, we could argue that until the cows come home, but you got Cam Carr's best punch. And that is a potential lottery guy, right, in this year's draft class, which is nuts. So I think that for Arizona to go in, persevere, like that's the kind of stuff that builds trust for me in this team, right? Like last year, that team might have folded. The year before, that team might have folded. The year before that, you get my point. This year, it feels different, right? Next year, like you and I off air do this thing where you like to, jokingly make a little bit of light of my positivity and be like, man, you think everybody on this team is awesome. But that's because everybody on this team is kind of awesome. Next year, it might not be that way. And I'm trying not to take that for granted, truly. And I'm trying to showcase levels of trust in this team that I don't in usual teams because this team deserves it. They really do. They've played that way. They played to that level. They deserve our trust. And I think that like when Jaden Bradley, now I'm kind of getting on a soapbox, but when Jaden Bradley has a rough couple of games and people on Twitter are like, he's unplayable right now. Has he not earned the trust of 2 rough games, a couple mistakes? I'm not alone. We're not innocent in this. I've tweeted like need more from JB, heartbroken emoji dove, because he missed the front end. You need a front end. You need it from your senior point guard. He can't fall asleep on Donovan Atwell in the Texas Tech game. These are mistakes that Jaden Bradley himself would call unacceptable. But I think being like, we lost JB is crazy. Same thing with Burries early on in the season, right? Like you and I gave it a lot of time.
Are a little bit too doom and gloom, Kevin?
Just too quick to pull the trigger, man. Like ask questions first and then shoot. You know what I mean? Like don't shoot and then ask questions. That's a whole mess. Now you got to clean stuff up. I hate cleaning. I don't even like doing dishes. I don't want to clean up a body. You know what I mean? So like ask questions first, then shoot, especially with this year's team, right? Last year's team, I think there was a lot more propensity to being like, they're too streaky to make a run. Fair. You can hear that argument. There aren't those arguments this year. And if they go and blow it, we can talk about that. But to this point, they've shown me nothing that gives me any inclination that thinks I shouldn't trust them over the course of 40 minutes with a team that is inferior to them. And I do get that, W. PTSD is a real thing. It really is. And maybe me coming in to my Wildcat fandom at the college age, maybe that affects things in the way I view this team. But I try to look at it as like, objectively is the really wrong word because this is an Arizona Wildcats pod.
We ain't objective.
No. But I try to look at it as like,
you guys are supposed to be journalists.
I try to look at it in like a vacuum. I try to view each year as much on its own merit as I can. And if there's some things that overlap, like a coach or tendencies or a trend in losses or wins, we can talk about that. But like them losing to Duke last year doesn't make me think that they're any more or less likely to go far or not go far in this year's tournament unless that team that they had last year returned a bunch of guys to this year's team. But that's not necessarily the case, right?
Yeah, I mean, I'd be scared of Cooper Flagg's Duke with all of the players that team had and the lottery picks and whatnot. But honestly, I think that in a weird way, and I know we've made this comparison before, but like you obviously don't have the Cooper Flagg level #1 pick guy, but like Arizona is kind of that team this year where you look at the roster in the rotation and you say, well, that's an NBA guy, and that's an NBA guy, and that's an NBA guy.
And that's not an NBA guy, but it will be in a year and a half.
And that guy is maybe not an NBA player, but he's going to kill it in the Australian League, and we all know who I'm talking about there. But like it just feels like there's
Sven. We love you, Sven.
It just feels like this team is so they're so athletic, they're so mentally strong. Like they just do everything the right way, and it felt like last year's team, to your point, needed like that perfect bracket to get through where, when on Selection Sunday, we're sitting there and we're going, oh yeah, that's a good 1 seed to get. Oh, I don't mind that matchup. But unfortunately, you didn't get that matchup. This year, I don't think it's matchup dependent. And that's not to say that like you couldn't get a bad draw where like a team that matches up well with Arizona is the 2 seed or the 3 seed or whatnot. And, might give us some trouble in an Elite 8 game or a Sweet 16 matchup or you name it. But I'm not going to be looking at any bracket going, we're not the favorite, because I think I know we are in whatever bracket you put Arizona in. And yes, Kevin, I do think that we could all take a little bit of a page out of your book, as much as I do make light of it, and I do try to send some shots your way, especially when we're off air, in regards to the constant positivity. You're like, this team they've earned that trust, they've earned that right, and they're so damn good, man. So why would we be sitting there being like, it's over, Jaden Bradley's broken? What?
Koa Pete stinks.
Koa Pete stinks. He quit on the team and he never was going to play for Arizona again. Chill out, bro.
Yeah.
It's as doomsday as it gets. Chicken Little, the sky is falling. It does feel like this fan base needs a little bit of a sense of reality from time to time. And that's what Kevin Thomas is here for.
I'll wrap up our topic here on this, and then we'll hit a break and get back into Tommy Lloyd stuff. But like, I want to caution any Arizona Wildcat fan that has enjoyed Arizona Wildcat basketball for however many years you've enjoyed Arizona Wildcat basketball. If you're not finding joy in this year's team, if you're looking for reasons to not trust this year's team,
might be time to hang them up.
Not even that, but like I foresee a lot of years of sad basketball fandom for you, because this is the most fun I've had while rooting for a team. This is the most trust I've ever had in a team, and it shows in the way we cover them. If next year's team is not nearly as trustworthy, we won't be nearly as they can't lose this game. They won't lose that. We will be much more, microscopic with the analysis. But I think like this year's team deserves trust. This year's team deserves faith. This year's team deserves the fandom. Like you dream for times like this. It's the Meek Mill bar. I used to pray for times like this, to watch teams like this. So I don't got bars like that. But you get the point. Enjoy this team while you have them, because you will not have them for much longer. We have like a month and a half of the basketball season, so get your stuff together if you're not enjoying this run, because it is closer to ending than it is to beginning. But we got more from Tommy Lloyd after our first break here on the AZ Wildcats podcast. Drink your water, leave a like, do not go anywhere. My favorite way to enjoy a weekend, a night out, a night in, or just a night to unwind is with our friends over at Pure Edibles, because who says happy hour has to end? That goes for our alcoholic beverages, but it also goes for some of our favorite products that involve CBN, CBG, CBD, or marijuana-derived THC. And now, I'm sure you're familiar with edibles, but you're probably familiar with some of Pure Edibles' competitors. They cover their stuff in sugar and chemicals and all these weird additives. Pure Edibles is a full-fledged candy company. They don't do none of the fluff stuff. This is all candy with all your favorite chemicals like CBN, CBG, CBD, like I already listed. We got gummies, kicks, which are kind of like Starburst, chews, and hard candy. So if you like any of that, I'm sure you like at least one of them. Pure Edibles could be the brand for you, and they're designed to be ripped or bit in half, making them easily shareable or easy to dial in that exact dosage. So go find yourself some Pure Edibles products from one of the over 130 dispensaries that dispense them across the Freedom State.
Pure Edibles, we love them so much, of course, and we love our friends at Branded Bills as well. I always am rocking Branded Bills on this podcast. Kevin, what was the live line going into today's podcast for me wearing Branded Bills?
Bad news. I heard they weren't even offering it because the book is making no money.
Yeah. I mean, the book's not going to offer bets where it's just automatic, right? And Branded Bills, always on my head and for good reason, whether it's a PHNX customized hat that I'm wearing, and if you want to get some custom apparel for your personal brand, there is only one place to stop, and it's at brandedbills.com. But of course, the campus collection as well brings us the best Arizona Wildcats headwear in the game. 40 partnerships with different universities, but they sponsor with all local universities, including the University of Arizona, and they're popping out designs like that. Kevin and I had Space U Galaxy Slam hats within the week of when they were announced that they were doing these uniforms, because Branded Bills works quick, and of course they want to help you look fresh in your Arizona Wildcats gear. So check out that campus collection today, brandedbills.com, and use our promo code of BBPHNX for 15% off your first order over at brandedbills.com.
Welcome on back to the AZ Wildcats podcast, where we do have more sound from Tommy Lloyd's presser last night after defeating Baylor in Waco, Texas. Now, the Big 12, we're going to get to it in our tier rankings on the other side of our next break, but I feel like, and we talked about it yesterday, the teams that are at the bottom of this conference are still so damn good.
Mm-hmm.
PJ Haggerty, how many programs would he play at across the country?
All of them.
so many, right? Like he would start at almost all of them. He is a bucket getter of the highest degree, and he's, like I said yesterday, rotting in Kansas State right now. He is collecting mold spores by the day.
In Manhattan, Kansas.
Don't put your fresh produce next to PJ Haggerty. It won't be good tomorrow. You know what I mean? So the Big 12 is a beast, and Tommy Lloyd knows that, and this is Tommy Lloyd talking about the Big 12 as a whole.
Yeah, I mean, we're in the thick of it. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I think all you got to do is look at Baylor's record in conference, and that's all you need to know. If you watch them play today and you see their record in conference, that's all you need to say about the Big 12. That's how hard it is on a day in and day out basis, and they got a great coach, and it just shows, that it's a thin line between having a successful season and not having a successful season, and none of us coaches should ever take it for granted, because Scott's one of the best in the business, and it's just they're having a tough go right now. But I mean, to me, that looks like that team that's kind of building for the Big 12 tournament that could cause some damage once they get into a knockout tournament scenario.
Tommy Lloyd knows this conference is crazy. Every Big 12 coach you listen to has a deep understanding of how difficult it is to win in this conference. And I think even coaches from other conferences that move to, I'm using this word lightly, but I'll say lesser conferences like the ACC. The ACC is still at the top with these other conferences, but not as tough as the Big 12, objectively, right? And I think that when Will Wade was on John Rothstein's podcast the other day, and what he told John Rothstein was that, like, he wasn't trying to say nothing too inflammatory, but you could tell by the way he answered the question that moving from the SEC to the ACC, there is a stark lack of physicality. It's all skill focus in the ACC, right? Like that is your Neo Abdalises, that's your Michael Brown Jr.'s, that's your, like, you know what I mean? Like skilled dudes that maybe aren't the biggest, most physical guys.
Mm-hmm.
SEC, Big 12, like these are physical, skilled conferences that you got to be really good to win in. And I just thought it was very nice to hear Tommy Lloyd remind us that the margins in this conference are so thin and that you cannot overlook a Baylor just because they're having a down year under Scott Drew, who hasn't been back to the national championship or the Final Four since that, whatever you want to call it, run we had a couple years ago with Baylor. This conference is crazy, man. You got a national championship winning coach in the basement this year.
Literally.
It's nuts in the Big 12. So just a nice reminder of how difficult this conference can be.
Bobby Hurley, right? That's who you're talking about. National championship winning coach in the basement. Oh, not when he was coaching. You're saying, I got you.
I think Bobby Hurley's national championship ring is doing the same thing PJ Haggerty's doing in K-State. You know what I mean? Just collecting dust, brother. Just collecting dust.
You look at Baylor's team and you kind of factor in the conference that they play in and whatnot. We made this point on last night's postgame show, Kevin, but I'm looking at the ACC standings. You got Duke at the top 14-1, Virginia 13-2, Miami 11-4, North Carolina 10-5, Clemson 10-5, NC State 10-5, Louisville 9-6, and then it's SMU 8-6. Cal 7-7, Virginia Tech 7-8, Florida State 7-8. I think Baylor is every bit those caliber of teams.
Yeah.
I think that Baylor would potentially be in kind of the Clemson, NC State, Louisville bracket of teams maybe if they got to play in that conference with that schedule, but unfortunately they don't, and they have to go toe-to-toe with the Iowa States, the Arizonas, the Houstons, the Kansases of the world, and it's a disaster for the bottom half of the Big 12 teams. It really is. Like it's going to cost probably, I want to say, like 4 or 5 teams a tournament appearance. I would argue. You look at West Virginia, TCU, Baylor, Cincinnati. Like those teams are probably tournament caliber teams in lesser conferences, but because they play in this war zone that is the Big 12, it's just not to be. And it goes to show the level that this conference plays at. No doubt about it.
It does. We're going to have more on that in our tier rankings coming up at the second half of the show. But to wrap up what Tommy Lloyd had to say, we have health updates, because one thing that all of this conversation with trust and faith in the team and the ceiling being as high as they are and the floor being as high as it is totally health dependent. If Arizona's not healthy come tournament time, all that belief, it really starts to do a bunch of shaking.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? The foundation starts to shake a little bit if you don't have Coapita 100%, if you don't got, ADO at least 90% to shoot some threes. Tobe Awaka, I think he rolled his ankle in that Baylor game. He obviously came back and played at a pretty high level, but you want him to not be rolling his ankle at all, maybe ever. Health is paramount, right? And this is what we have from Tommy Lloyd talking about the health struggles of Arizona, and then also a slight update on Koa Pete.
Our training staff, Doc Saker, J-Rock in rounds did an incredible job with our guys. And, Deli, he's a stud. He told me before the game he felt 100%. I don't think he looked 100%, but for him to say that shows his competitive character. And you see him tweaking that ankle out there and hanging with it. We just don't have a lot of options right now. We just got to get through it. And our medical staff's doing a great job, making our guys available. And I think we hopefully have some reinforcements coming soon, which they'll be welcomed. I just think the toughness that our guys are showing physically right now of dealing with some, everyone's banged up. So I'm not saying we're more hurt than anybody else, but you also have to deal with it, and you have to fight to get wins in these games, and our guys are doing a great job fighting for the program.
Well, just following up, you mentioned reinforcements, but I assume maybe one of them is Koa. Is that a sign that he's pretty close? That
would be a great reinforcement. I think I haven't got nothing confirmed, but I think we're hopefully nearing the point where he'll be able to play soon.
Hopefully, we're nearing the point where he can be able to play soon. So
lots of qualifiers.
So hopefully, we're at a point where we're getting close to the point where he can play sometime soon.
I think that's three like maybes in a row there.
It sounds like Tommy Lloyd is getting encouraging news. I interpret that, and this is speculation time. We need like a segment like where we put like a curtain up, and it's like the speculation curtain, where we can just kind of say whatever. But it feels like to me, if I'm to play interpreter there for Tommy Lloyd, it feels like he maybe has some sort of encouraging news that Koa Pete could maybe play like next week against Iowa State or potentially against Kansas, but things have to continue to go well for him to get there, I'm assuming. And I'm assuming Tommy Lloyd doesn't want to come out and say, things are going great. And then if there's a setback, he has to come back and say, things are not going great. And then the fan base does the SpongeBob, all the files are on fire, running back and forth thing. Setback! What do you mean a setback? Oh, no! And then it's like a bad thing. So I think Tommy Lloyd doing the same thing he did with Dwayne Aristode a couple weeks ago when I was down in Tucson, where they were like, hey, is he going to play against BYU? And Tommy kind of said, like, maybe.
He could.
He literally could. Potentially could. Potentially maybe he could maybe see a way where like he starts doing that. So I do think I interpret that as progress in the Koa Pete side of things. Damon, how do you interpret it?
Well, I did feel better about it until you compared it to Dwayne Aristode 2 weeks ago, and we haven't seen or heard from him or gotten a read or a pulse or a heartbeat since.
I'm just saying he was being cautious, man.
So, I mean, I like I said, I think that, yesterday's game time decision, I think, is what makes me feel better about it. I don't think any Arizona fan really expected Koa Pete to be playing against Baylor yesterday. But the fact that he was close enough to be a game time decision, I think, is very encouraging. It shows that he's not too far off of being ready to go and being ready to play basketball games. And even if he's out for Kansas, I would then expect him to be back for the next game, hypothetically. So, hopefully Koa Pete back soon. This team has proven that they can win without Koa Pete. But it certainly would be nice, especially against a team like Kansas, to have that level of talent added into the rotation again. So Koa Pete, game time decision yesterday against Baylor. Didn't end up going. Hopefully we get better news in the near future in regards to Arizona star freshman.
Indeed, and there's some more positive news. I do have the clip, but I don't think I really need to play it. You're going to get the point by what I'm saying. It did come out the last night. There were a ton of scouts in that building for that game against Baylor, which makes a ton of sense, all the sense in the world. We listed off all the potential NBA guys in that game, and it's truly almost like a double-digit list. It's an unbelievable number of talented basketball players that were in that game last night. But I say all that to say I am planning on, maybe potentially getting out in the next 2 days an audio-only episode for us, kind of documenting where Braden Burries is in mock draft season-wise. Is he moving up, moving down? How high is he? How low is he? All that type of stuff. I think this is the type of time where Braden Burries did that in front of all those NBA draft scouts last night. I think he might be moving up, doing the skiing thing from my Twitter, just climbing up the high skis. You know what I mean? Up the draft class. So yeah, be on the lookout for that. Tons of scouts in the building. Everybody loves Braden Burries from what I'm hearing. So yeah, make sure to tap in with that as well.
That is positive news, Kevin. In a little bit more positive news as well, your mother, June, super chat, $5. Wow. Appreciate you, June. As always, countdown to Kevin's birthday, 7 days. T-minus 7 days here. Electric. Of course, Kevin and I are going to be off on Kevin's birthday, but we're trying to work out something where maybe my guy can get a little bit more time off. He deserves it. He's been, just busting his ass during college basketball season.
We didn't talk about this last night when I broached this topic with you about the schedule for next week. Girlfriend is potentially talking about Brazilian steakhouse dinner.
Wow.
She also threw the potential of an all-day AMC movie marathon, because for Valentine's Day, she got me a $100 AMC gift card because I'm getting into movies right now. And so she was like, maybe you and I could
hasn't seen Moneyball, by the way, chat.
I'm working on it.
Kevin hasn't seen the movie Moneyball.
There's a crazy long list.
Movie guy Kevin.
Getting into movie guy Kevin. We have not achieved movie guy status. You know what I mean? But I think like Moneyball is high on the list of things I need to watch. There's also... We can go into all the sports movies that I haven't seen. I don't want to embarrass myself here on this podcast, right? But you know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of sports movies I haven't seen. Point being, next week, we'll see what the schedule looks like. We're going to keep you updated in terms of that. But we're not going to go anywhere coverage-wise. And just like that, we're not going to go anywhere on this podcast without telling you about two more of our favorite sponsors. Before we talk about Big 12 tier rankings, is Arizona back in the number one S-tier slot? Let's talk about it after this. Damon, when you're going through the toughest time in your life, we all want someone that is just there for us, that is specifically focused on trying to help us through this tough time. And if you've been in a serious accident involving serious injury or, unfortunately a wrongful death type of context, the husband and wife law team are here and 100% dedicated to injury and wrongful death. They're not only experienced, but they're specialized in helping you through the most challenging time in your life by providing unmatched combination of both personalized service and legal results, which is really what you want to see. And as I tell you every time, this is not like, a dime every dozen. No. Only less than 1% of all lawyers certified by the Arizona State Bar are specialists in injury and wrongful death. And if you call this number, 602-783-8841, you will reach the foremost specialists on injury and wrongful death, Mark and Alexis Bryers, the husband and wife law team. If you've had a serious injury, call them at the number on the screen right now, 602-783-8841, or visit their website in our show notes below and let them know PHNX helped you on your way over there.
And of course, if you're getting your day started, there's only one spot to stop, and it is, of course, our friends at Circle K. Head on over to Circle K. Today, I was going to say .com. Try it. Go to CircleK.com. Check it out. Or just go to one of their many locations that they have in the great state of Arizona. If you live here in Arizona, you know that Circle K is just on every single corner, man. It's like a running joke around here. But when you are America's thirst stop, when you are Arizona's thirst stop, you have to be reliable. And we sure as hell know that Circle K is reliable in that there are locations all spread throughout the valley, and there are savings to be had. Whether you want to get in on the meal deals, the snack deals, the Polar Pop deals, you name it, they got them for you. But the gas savings are what's going to save you the most money possible. And of course, Inner Circle Rewards members save so much when they sign up. In the first place, they get 25 cents off per gallon on their first 5 fill-ups. Then you save 3 cents off per gallon every single time you fill up at the tank until you hit premium status, and you save 5 cents off per gallon every time you fill up, guys. And that over the course of an entire calendar year really stacks up and saves you a ton of money. So get in on that today. Shout out our friends at Circle K for always trying to find ways that we can cut some costs and, just make things a little bit easier on people, because we all know things are expensive these days. Circle K is trying to help you save money, keep some of that money in your pocket, and you can join the Inner Circle for free by downloading that Circle K app today. Terms and conditions apply at participating locations. Visit CircleK.com for details.
Welcome on back to the AZ Wildcats podcast, where today you can get a special deal on becoming a diehard with our friends over at the PHNX Cardinals podcast. They're at the Combine, out there in Indianapolis, out there in Colts land, preaching the good gospel of the Arizona Cardinals. The best coverage from the Combine, the best coverage of the Arizona Cardinals, and dare I say, the NFC West. in the entire game. Just $36 for 1 year of Die Hard membership. That includes stuff like me and Damon, our Die Hard only content, the Die Hard only Discord. You can chop it up with me about college basketball at 1 in the morning because I'm definitely up watching whatever West Coast game is on. So get in the Discord. 3DMK's in there. Sean's in there. Everybody's in there. Make sure to tap in with that as well. And I know that, some people, we did a Die Hard survey recently. Some people said, we want more Die Hard only content. Like we're thirsty. We want more. And I was like, you know what? Big board. Boom. Coming out soon. I'm still working on making sure I can feel good about putting it out because there's a lot of prospects this year. And I don't want to make myself a fool when draft time comes around. So hopefully by the end of this week, I'll have something more cemented for you guys. But it's coming out. It's coming out. And it'll be Die Hard members only stuff. Members only videos, Die Hard only articles. So yes, become a Die Hard now. Combine offer, just $36. You get a free t-shirt as well. It pretty much covers the subscription itself. I think the t-shirts are like 32-ish bucks, whatever it is. So if you want a free t-shirt and a whole extra year of Die Hard membership on top of that, now is the time to sign up.
It's even better savings, Kevin. The t-shirts are $34.99. This Die Hard membership is $36.
Wow.
If you need help with the math there, if you're like my guy Kevin at home, that's $1.01 difference, and you get all the added benefits of being a Die Hard. So if you ever thought about buying that Redline t-shirt, that me and Kevin helped kind of create and put out during the football season, Redline turnover sword t-shirt, now's the perfect time to do so because you get added benefits on top of getting that t-shirt for a free price. And this is the best time of year to do it. $36, the cheapest Die Hard sale we do over here at All City Network and at PHNX Sports. Take advantage of it while it lasts. And take advantage of it during the draft season as well. If you're big into NFL draft like I am, it's the perfect time to get involved because Fran Duffy and Johnny Venerable and everybody that's putting out Die Hard only draft content, it's so worth it just for that alone. So yeah, get it all in on that Die Hard membership sale. Now's the perfect time to become a Die Hard here at PHNX Sports.
And now is the perfect time to talk about some Big 12 tier rankings, Damon, because man, what a conference this is. Cincinnati knocks off Kansas by the biggest points discrepancy in Phog Allen history under Bill Self, I think. Unbelievable week. Arizona goes on the road to Houston without Koa Pete and gets a win. All types of stuff going on in the Big 12. And you guys already know how this podcast rocks. Once a week, we get in here, we get our little tier maker going and ready, and we rank every team in the Big 12 from S all the way down to D, the bottom of the barrel. Now, Damon, anything that you wanted to specifically touch on before we get into this?
Been some big results here in conference. I think one thing that bears noting, Kevin, is we are without JT Toppin from the last time that we did these tier rankings to now. How does that impact how we kind of grade out Texas Tech? Should that impact how we grade out Texas Tech? Because, their body of work of what they've done this season is different than the caliber of team that they will be moving forward without arguably their best player. And, you still have Christian Anderson who puts up an unbelievable performance against Cincinnati in a big win against a Cincinnati team that's been playing some pretty damn good basketball. But yeah, that's going to be an interesting conversation approach when we get there. But yeah, good amount of movement in this conference and some results that make things very, very interesting, Kevin.
Indeed, and I do want to get to more Christian Anderson during the Texas Tech part of this because that boy is balling, let me tell you what. And there's a great comparison that I sent to you that we can talk about as well. But first team on today's tier list, let's go ahead and make it Colorado. Now, Colorado. Under Tad, what's that on his face? Oh, it's a boil. They have been able to beat Oklahoma State 83-69 recently, but they lost in overtime to BYU, gave the Cougars a scare, as well as losing to Texas Tech since the 11th. Damon, where do you think we should place Colorado this week?
Colorado is a D-tier team. They might be at the top of the D-tier, but this is a team that is 5-9 in conference. Definitely, not one of the better teams here in the Big 12. 15-12 overall. Not a good team, but also not like the worst team. Fair?
No, yeah, definitely very fair. Now, moving on, let's talk a little bit about Iowa State. Now, Iowa State, this is an interesting squad, in my opinion, Damon, because what Iowa State's been incredible at this year is putting together one of the best analytical teams in the country. Top 20 offense, top 10 defense. Now, Those have dropped a little bit over the course of the season. But for a while, you were talking about like one of the best defenses in the country, Damon Lipsy, Milan Momcilovic, like the whole gang was working. And then you drop a game to Kansas early on in the Big 12 season, and no one's batting an eye at that. But then you follow it up with a loss against Cincinnati. You win a bunch of games. You lose to TCU. You beat Kansas. You beat Houston. You lose to BYU. And then you beat Utah by a gajillion points because everybody's beating Utah by a gajillion points. I don't know what to make of Iowa State. I think we should keep them in the S tier, but to me, it feels like this is the best A-tier team that ever existed. And I know the chat. Last week we did this was like Iowa State deserves to be in the S tier. But I just feel like that when they play the best teams not at Hilton, it feels like they lose. Now I know they played Purdue early on in the year, but I think Purdue's a post turtle anyway. Like I'm not a big Purdue guy in the slightest. What are you doing with Iowa State, Damon? I would have them at the top of the A tier, I think, but I'm not. I could be sold on S or A. Where are you at?
We've been a little bit disrespectful, admittedly, with Iowa State this year, and yeah, those. I mean that 18-point dub against Kansas followed up by a 3-point win against Houston,
in one of the best games of the year.
Incredible, but there has been a little bit of a lack of consistency, as you mentioned. They have lost to some teams that they probably don't have really any business losing to. BYU being one of them, right? Especially without Richie Saunders. Let's do it. Let's make them A tier. I'm with it. I think that conventionally, you look at their resume, the record that they have in this conference, I think it's every bit deserving of being an S tier type of team. But I really do feel like there might be like a top kind of 2 in this conference. And maybe now we're at the point in the season where the top is being weeded out a little bit. And, there's more of a middle section than what we've become accustomed to doing and seeing on these tier rankings that we've been doing, Kevin, all season long, because we have struggled to find some A and B tier teams, I feel like, at times this season, differentiating teams from S tier teams into those lower groups. But, yeah, I think we make Iowa State an A tier team and we deal with the crazy Cyclones fans later.
I agree. Iowa State in the A tier, the very top of the A tier for right now. And this is going to be an interesting squad, Damon. Let's talk about them right now. Cincinnati, the Bearcats. Now, for a long time this season, and not just basketball season, this podcast has maybe not been the highest on Cincinnati athletics this season. And maybe this podcast has been wrong at least once about that. And maybe we'll be wrong about 2 Cincinnati programs this year, yet to be determined with Wes Miller's group. But speaking of Wes Miller's group,
I was actually right the entire time about Brendan Sorsby in Cincinnati, Kevin.
Oh?
Cincinnati fans, you get now you're suing Brendan Sorsby for a buyout. Someone was trying to tell you that he's not all that the whole time.
That part's
just saying.
Fair. That part is fair. You
Just
were on
dude.
top of that. You were on top of that. Never wrong, just early, Damon.
100%. 100%.
Cincinnati, though, they lose to Texas Tech by 12, but that kind of ends a really hot stretch of play for them. I think I saw some stat. I should have pulled it up before the show, but I didn't know how to really find it again because I was listening to a podcast and they kind of just said it. And I was like, how do I find this podcast that I listened to? And they said this thing. But apparently since January 1st, Cincinnati has been literally one of the best teams in the country analytically. Now, I know since January 1st, you lose to Houston, but only by 7. You lose to West Virginia, but only by 2. UCF, only by 1. You beat Iowa State by 9. Now you get drubbed by Arizona. Everyone's losing to Arizona these days. Arizona State, you also lose to, which is a really bad loss. You and I talked about that in the moment. Like if you're Cincinnati, it's one thing to lose to Arizona, but then you cannot follow it up with a loss to Arizona State.
Yeah.
Baylor, you win. Houston, you lose. West Virginia, you lose by 5. So it seems like West Virginia and Ross Hodge just has your number. But here's this recent stretch of play. UCF, you win by 20. Kansas State, Utah, and then a big win against Kansas, Damon. You blow Kansas out in Phog Allen Fieldhouse. You do have one of the best defenses in the country, undeniably. You have one of the better guys in the conference in Baba Miller. I'm not saying he's the best, but he's one of the top half guys in this conference for certain. And then you lose to Texas Tech by 12. Sure, they don't have JT Toppin, but it's like they still got Christian Anderson, and they still got a bunch of dogs on that team. I think it's time for us to put some respect on Cincinnati and make C for Cincinnati a thing. I think they should be at the top of the C tier. Do you agree?
Yeah, they're playing good basketball right now in particular. You look at since that Arizona State loss, the loss to Houston, the loss to West Virginia, and a loss to Texas Tech. All three are respectable. Obviously, the West Virginia loss is the worst one of the bunch, but not necessarily a team that I think is like a shameful loss. Other than that, they've been taking care of business. They've beaten UCF and Kansas, which are two really good wins mixed in. And even that loss against Texas Tech, Kevin, they actually went up in the analytics after losing that game to Texas Tech. So, I think that they're a pretty solid team. They're top 50 on KenPom right now. C for Cincinnati, baby. A team that could make the tournament if things break right for them at the end of the year, but I think it's going to require a big Big 12 conference tournament from them, like making it to the semifinal type of stuff.
I agree with you. And I think we're looking at a team that potentially, if you look at their schedule to end the season in the Big 12, Oklahoma State at home, BYU at home, TCU away.
Got to go 3-0.
Yeah, you do have to go 3-0. But I think realistically, you probably go 2-1 in that stretch. But I think that's still like respectable. That's a finishing, 9-9 in the Big 12 season after starting out 0-3 and then losing to Arizona State mixed in there. And you know what I mean? Like, I think that Cincinnati, all things considered, trying to recover this year. Now, next up on our list, we got who is it going to be? Who is it going to be? Let's make it Oklahoma State. Let's talk a little bit of Oklahoma State, Damon. Now, the Cowboys under Steve Lutz, a little bit of an up and down season so far to this point, but recently it's been a whole lot of down. It's been a whole lot of negative for Steve Lutz and OSU as of late. I'm talking to the tune of 5 straight losses from Arizona to Colorado.
Mm-hmm.
And then you beat West Virginia in overtime by 7 last night in a game you and I were talking about before the show that you really, if you're Oklahoma State, you had to have that, absolutely had to have that. But if you're West Virginia, you can't lose that game.
Season
to a team.
Killer.
Yeah, to a team that's just dropped 5 in a row in the conference, you cannot lose that game. I think Oklahoma State is in the D tier, Damon.
I think this is we've been trying to keep them in the C tier and give a little bit more respect towards the Cowboys. But, this is a team that they've played themselves into the D tier recently. I do think they might be at the top of the D tier. But, not a good season from Oklahoma State, all things considered, especially after that really good start, Kevin. And now they're 5-10 in conference.
My word.
It's just not good enough.
It is just not good enough. And it is really just a brutal, brutal conference to make it through right now. And I think Oklahoma State.
Yeah, but you can't lose to ASU and Colorado in a 5-game stretch if you want to be taken seriously.
No, yeah. That's what I was getting at. I was saying like
stuff. That's you might have little lesser margin for error in the Big 12, but like you got to handle teams that stink. And those teams absolutely stink.
But what I was getting at is that like in the Big 12 conference where it is so difficult, if you don't execute, it will snowball on you.
Yeah.
And that is what's happened to Oklahoma State, where you do start out the season very promising, but you were unable to maintain that momentum, and now it's just gotten out of control on you, and you cannot get it back under control. And it feels like you got, 3 games left, and you might have soiled it already. So
it's over.
Yeah, it's over. But Oklahoma State, done talking about them. We're going to continue talking about these Big 12 conference teams after our final break on the AZ Wildcats pod. Leave a like, stick around, do not go anywhere. If you want to multiply the good things in your life, you got to go with the Arizona Lottery Multiplier Scratchers, because Multiplier Scratchers are the perfect way to add to your life, multiplying good things like vacation, relaxation, maybe a nice black truck with red trim. Who knows? Who knows? You can multiply all types of good stuff with our friends over at the Arizona Lottery. Multiplier tickets start at just $1, but get this, have prizes of up to 5 M's. That's $5 million USD. And look, if I got that $5 million, Lord knows what I would do with it. I might not even be on this podcast. I might be doing a remote set on this podcast from like an island or like a beach somewhere. You know what I mean?
You leave us in the dust
with a
in
coconut
2 seconds,
tequila
Kevin.
pineapple in my hand. I'd be like, I think Koa Pete's going to return against Kansas. Beautiful scenes on the beach there. But either way, make sure with access to over 3,500 retailers that you can play wherever and whenever you like with our friends over at Arizona Lottery.
Shout out our friends at Arizona Lottery, of course. They're always supporting local. And another great way that you can help support local, support the great state of Arizona when it comes to the sports culture that we have here, is heading on out to Phoenix Raceway over the weekend of March 5th through March 8th, which is coming up, guys. If you're not aware, that's in about 10 days. I mean, we're really getting pretty close here to the Phoenix Raceway weekend. And Kevin, they're doing something brand new this year. So obviously NASCAR at Phoenix Raceway, if you've ever been before, they usually do their championship weekend in Phoenix. That is now a rotating cast of cities. It will be back in Phoenix someday. It's going to be lit, but it's no longer championship weekend here at Phoenix Raceway. So how are they going to help elevate that experience to take it up a notch? Because we got to have something special here in Phoenix when it comes to our great racing culture. And they said, why don't we add NTT IndyCar Series racing to the same weekend? NASCAR and NTT IndyCar Series are racing at the same weekend at Phoenix Raceway, March 5th through March 8th, and you get a front row seat to it. All of it is an elevated sports experience that is unlike anything you've ever seen before. I guarantee you that. The vibes are incredible. The culture out there is so fun. People just want to hang out, get to know you, get to meet you. There's all sorts of food trucks, different sort of giveaway trucks. Like, for example, like there will be like a damn golf brand out there, and they'll be like, if you sign up, you'll be one of the 3 winners to get a whole new set of clubs. There's all types of giveaways out there that you want to get a part of. And of course, just the entire sports experience itself is, worth it alone. So get out, check out those different ticket packages that they have available on their website, and secure your seats now at the link in our show description over at phoenixraceway.com. Again, that's NASCAR and NTT IndyCar Series weekend at Phoenix, March 5th through March 8th.
Welcome on back to the AZ Wildcats podcast, where Damon and I are breaking down our Big 12 tier rankings. And right now, it feels like this conference is must-see TV in so many different ways. One of those teams that is absolutely must-see TV is Texas Tech. Now, recently, they've taken a big blow to their roster, and they have lost J.T. Toppin, National Player of the Year candidate, Big 12 Player of the Year last year, overall engine of that team, or at least it seems that way, as Christian Anderson is taking it on his shoulders to make sure Texas Tech still has a good season, or at least a good end of the season. I think this is an A-tier team. I saw Christian Ojakshian, I think it is, on Twitter, put out a very, very poetic comparison, Damon, that I sent to you last night about when Christian Anderson says, quote, it's like a star QB just lost his all-pro wide receiver. And I'm like, that's beautiful. It's a beautiful way to describe the pick and roll game, because Christian Anderson really is that guy, and now he's having to find different outlets on offense.
Now the field just opened up for Noah Fafita with Tetero McMillan in the NFL. I hear you. I think Texas Tech deserves a lot of credit for how good of a team that they had. They're 11-4 in conference. That's tied with Houston. That's tied with Kansas. They've beaten Houston. They've beaten Arizona. Incredible resume. And I would honestly say that I think there's an argument for them versus Iowa State. If this was a situation, I'm sorry, they also have the same record as Iowa State. Yeah. They're tied for second place.
They play Saturday.
I'm sorry, Kevin. I think we got to move them down a notch to B tier without JT Toppin. I know it's a little bit unfair. They've won, one of the games without him here against Cincinnati. I'm trying to remember, did they win the game that he went down in? No, they did not.
No, it was Arizona
right?
State. They lost.
Yeah, they lost that game. I think that moves you into B tier, man. I think that's it right there. You lose to ASU. You lost your best player. You don't have the potential that you once did. This is a team that could have won a national championship, and I wouldn't have been surprised at the end of the year because they have that level of upper echelon talent. But I think with Christian Anderson and no JT Toppin, they are merely a B-tier team, Kevin.
B tier but what if Toppin didn't get injured? Oh, no. Yeah, oh, man, that's an interesting one, Damon. There's still a top 12 offense. You still have Christian Anderson. Still a good defensive team.
What does a top 12 offense mean when the sample size is 95% JT Toppin ball?
We can put him in the B tier for now for sure. And
top of B tier for me. I think that's fair. Like you lost your ceiling. You're still a tournament team. I think B tier for us all season long has been what you would consider quote unquote tournament teams, but it's not really teams that you're that scared of in the tournament. And I don't think you should be that scared of Texas Tech without JT Toppin in the tournament. I really don't.
Moving on.
I wish it wasn't so, Kevin. I really do. I want the Big 12 to be successful. I have no problems with Texas Tech. They're a fun team to watch. They're a team I would have probably invested heavily in my bracket because of their upper echelon talent. I did last year. I had Texas Tech in a Final Four last year. I think they made the Elite Eight, right? So it's just unfortunate, really. Arizona's not really built like that, but I'm trying to think of imagine if, they're pretty good too. I'm like, what if Iowa State lost Jefferson? They're not the same. It's not the same team.
Or like Momcilovic, really, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
That's tough, yeah. Moving on, I do think that they should probably be in the top of B tier for now, especially because we're going to see what they have on Saturday against Iowa State. I think if they beat Iowa State, right back up into the A tier, in my opinion, because I think Christian Anderson is that type of guy who you can still have a team built around. Now, without his lead pick and roll partner, we will see. Kansas State, we do not have to spend too much oxygen on them. They are the worst team in this conference. Their season has been over for about a month now. I made their logo smaller because I want to forget that they're playing basketball this season. K-State, I know Utah exists, but somehow you've managed to be the worst team in this conference.
Well, it's interesting you said that, Kevin, because I was about to say, why don't we just put Utah right next to them? Why don't we just get it out of the way? We don't need to spend any time talking about them. Utah is absolutely horrendous. They're the other worst team in this conference. Kansas State, Utah, congratulations, disastrous seasons. In different ways, too. I mean, one of them, you lose your head coach who, had a Final Four under his belt really early on.
Brother, you didn't lose him. You kicked him out.
Yeah.
You didn't misplace Jerome Tang. You know exactly where he's at.
No
he's
question.
In the employment line right
yes.
now. You know what I mean?
He's at church. And meanwhile, you got Utah, who has a first-year head coach in Alex Jensen. You want to have a little bit of hope, something to hang your hat on going into next season, and you got nothing because you're horrible. Yeah. So that's the bottom of this conference. There's no question about that. If there was anything lower than D tier on this graphic, they would be lower than that. That's 100%, for sure. 100%. But why don't we move on to a team that's worth talking about, Kevin?
Yeah, let's talk about the Arizona Wildcats. Now, the Arizona Wildcats, this is a team that we moved down in the Big 12 tier rankings last week, but not down a tier, just down a slot in the S tier from the top S1 top team in the Big 12 to S2, second best team in the Big 12. But you don't have Koa Pete. You go into Houston and you upset the team that we gave the number one slot to last week in the Houston Cougars. And now I think we can kill two birds, one stone here, Damon. I think Arizona is the best team in this conference right now. And I think Houston can get moved back down to where they belong as the second best team. Do you agree?
I do agree. I think that, Houston, despite having the same record as Iowa State, Texas Tech, Kansas, is a step above those teams. I think they're really, really damn good. Arizona just kind of, took control of the conference again. Absolutely. U of A deserves to have that number one spot in the S tier. And I think Houston is the other S tier team in this conference.
That Houston squad is still terrifying. I know a lot of Houston fans are kind of trying to hit the panic button a little bit right now, but that squad still terrifies me. Speaking of a squad that might still terrify all of us if they're at full strength, or maybe even not, the Kansas Jayhawks, the Fighting Darren Petersons, the Fighting Flories, the Mighty Melvins, right? I don't know. I got nothing left. But Kansas... You
unloaded the clip.
I really did. Just nothing left. It's click, click, click. Kansas was in the S tier last week. I think that, in my opinion, it's I don't even know what to do with this Kansas team, Damon, to be honest with you. I really don't. You lose to Cincinnati inexplicably by the margin by which you lost to them by. I could maybe hear you saying you lost to Cincinnati in general. Iowa State did it, right? Cincinnati's got a good defense, Baba Miller, the whole thing. But at home, for one thing. For the second thing, the margin was nuts. You got blown out. It wasn't a close game.
Skunked.
And in my opinion, I think that this is still an S-tier team because they have the capability to go on that run. They maybe have the top overall pick. But if Iowa State and Texas Tech are in the A tier, I almost think Kansas deserves to be in the A tier too. Because you can't tell me that right now they're playing at the same level as Houston and Arizona, they just beat Houston and Arizona. So, what do you do with Kansas, Damon?
It's really tough. It certainly is. I mean, this was going to be the one that, it's going to put you in a little bit of a mental pretzel trying to figure it out because they did just beat Houston. They did just look really, really good against Houston in probably their best game of the entire season that they played as a team. That being said, I think they're an A-tier team. I think that you lose to Cincinnati in fashion like that. That's what gets you in the A tier. And this is where I was saying, but when we were kind of leading into this, Kevin, is I feel like in the recent weeks here, the recent last couple of games, we are starting to see a little bit more of a designated filling out of the different tiers, whereas we've been giving these teams credit in having being like, you know what, they're S tier. How could you not put them in the S tier with the record they have in this conference? But now you're starting to see these teams play each other a little bit more. You get that loss to Cincinnati. I think Arizona-Houston is a two-man triumph, or just duo at the top there. And then you have Kansas-Iowa State right below. And then a JT Toppin list Texas Tech in the B tier.
Man,
I
what could have
agree.
been? What could have been with Texas Tech, man? What could have been? But yeah, Kansas really is the blender team, and we don't have to spend all day on it. But that is, I think, the toughest team to place in this conference.
Where you at, Kansas fans? Where you at?
Simply because, man, you beat Houston, you beat Arizona, you beat Iowa State, but you've also lost to Iowa State, lost to Cincinnati, lost to West Virginia, lost to UCF. You lose to UConn, lose to Duke. Those are acceptable. You lose to UNC, a little bit. I mean, definitely acceptable because Caleb Wilson, I think, took that game as if it was his family was at stake. But, yeah, I mean, Kansas, sue us if you don't think you deserve to be in the A tier. But I think right now, that's just where we got to put you. Next up, Arizona's most recent opponent of Baylor. Now, Baylor is kind of also a bit of a blender team, in my opinion, Damon, because they do have top flight talent in this conference of Tunde Yesufu and Cam Carr, but they don't have any results. Really, they have not yet put together any string of consistent success this season. Their longest win streak in the conference is 2, and it came against West Virginia and Colorado. Other than that, you've lost to every other team that is good in this conference. And I think that, in my opinion, that puts them behind Oklahoma State in the D tier. Do you agree?
Yeah, I like your spot for them. I like them better than Colorado. I think they're maybe not as good as Oklahoma State, maybe a step below, but impressive showing last night. They're a team that I think you have to take seriously despite being in the D tier, but overall, disastrous season from Baylor. Let's move on to another team here.
Moving on, Damon, let's talk a little bit of West Virginia, Mountain Mama. You already know how we're going. Ross Hodge. Last week we had him at the top of the C tier, but after 3 straight losses to Utah, TCU, and Oklahoma State, I think we've been trying to do a rule of thumb.
Utah?
Yeah.
I didn't notice that. That's news to me.
Bro said, what?
What the?
I'll have to show you the Steph Curry clip after this that I thought of where he's just like, wait, who said what now?
They blew it, dude. West Virginia had a tournament berth in the works, and they blew it.
All you had to do was continue to go win-loss, win-loss, win-loss. You had to beat Utah. You could have lost to TCU. You could have beat Oklahoma State. You could have lost to BYU. You could have beat Kansas State. And you could have lost to UCF and still made the tournament, in my humble opinion, because your wins are good enough. Cincinnati, Kansas, there are wins in there that I think are good enough. But they blew it, and now because of our 3 straight loss rule, it feels like they're in the D tier.
All right, I'm fine with that. I was going to say I think that a 7-8 team is still a C tier team, but
I can hear a C tier.
You lose to Utah, I think that might just put you in the D tier automatically. If Kansas lost to Utah, I'd say let's put them in the D tier.
Yeah.
You can't lose to Alex Jensen's Utah. Just can't happen.
No.
Give me another team here, Kevin. What do we got?
BYU. Last week it was B tier YU, and
C tier YU.
This week they have been blown out by UCF at home, and that was a shocking result.
It was.
We can just call a spade a spade. As good as this conference is, to get blown out by UCF in Provo.
13-point game, Kevin. Not that big of a blowout.
At one point, it was a 30-point game, and your fans were booing.
It was like a 35-point game.
Dude,
it was
booing AJ Dybantsa and the company off the court, and it's like, wait, hold on. Let me do the math. We paid this kid $7 million to come be a star and a stud for this program. All he's done, in my opinion, is hoop for BYU, put the main thing first, put games and winning first, and you're booing him off the court. Man, yeah, I think they're still B tier YU. I think they're behind Texas Tech in the B tier.
Yeah, they are. 2 teams that have lost big time pieces for the season, and I think that's kind of what this tier has become. Is and not that BYU is not in this tier as is, but like teams that are pretty dang good, have a lot of potential, have the upper echelon talent, but maybe just lost a piece here or there that is keeping them from being a true contender for, a national championship. Because I do think Kansas and Iowa State, despite being in the A tier, are somewhat national title contenders, whereas BYU, Texas Tech are teams that are going to make it, but teams that just frankly are not good enough to really make a ton of noise once they get there.
Hear me out. We got UCF up next, Damon. Now, last week they were in the C tier because we felt that losing 3 straight, albeit to Houston and Cincinnati for 2 of them, deserved them to move down because we had them in the B tier for the longest time. They were holding down steady until BYU got down there, and I felt like they kicked them out. But then they went into BYU and blew the brakes off of them, and they're on a 3-game win streak. I feel like they deserve to move back up into the B tier. Is that insane? Is that crazy?
No, but they do have to take care of business in the next few games here. They have Baylor, Oklahoma State, and West Virginia. I'd argue maybe the 3 teams, we have them there in the D tier, at the top of the D tier. Those are the teams that you set yourself apart against if you want to be taken seriously in this conference. Those are 3 teams that can beat you, but they shouldn't, right? Wouldn't you argue?
Yeah,
like those might be them, and maybe Cincinnati as well for much of this season are teams that could kind of beat most of the teams that are on their schedule, but they shouldn't if you're a team that is supposed to be taken seriously. And so they got to handle business against Baylor, Oklahoma State, and West Virginia if they want to make the tournament here. And yeah, I think they belong maybe in that B tier, Kevin, because of their 3 straight wins against TCU, Utah, and BYU. But I could see them dropping straight back down to this C tier if they don't have a good week here or I guess next, until we hit our next Big 12 tier rankings when they play Baylor and Oklahoma State.
Could I argue for them to be above Cincinnati off of consistency over the season?
They're better than Cincinnati.
All right, so we have currently as it stands in the S tier, Arizona and Houston, Kansas, Iowa State in the A tier. I like these duos we got going on. Arizona, Houston, S tier, Kansas, Iowa State, A tier, Texas Tech, BYU, B tier, UCF, Cincinnati, C tier, and then a whole plethora of mid to slightly garbage into the D tier as well. And moving back into our tier ranking, we only got a couple teams left, so make sure to leave a like on this video if you have not done so already, because we're almost finished with this week's tier rankings. Let's save Bobby Hurley for last, and let's just talk about TCU. Now, the Horned Frogs, they are currently 18-10 on the season, 8-7 in the Big 12 Conference. They've just beaten West Virginia and Arizona State. It's weird because we almost, I want to call it a rule of thumb where we're like, hey, winning record makes you pretty decent, right? And I think if this was maybe a different team that had an 8-7 record, we could talk about maybe a B tier for them. But TCU is not on the level of BYU and Texas Tech, in my opinion. I know that, that they lose to BYU, so it's kind of obvious in that sense. But I think this is a C tier team, Damon, and I still think they're behind Cincinnati. Is that crazy?
No, that's exactly where they belong, and they also have a very interesting next 3 games here, Kevin. Kansas State, which, straight up needs to be a victory.
Yeah.
Then you play Texas Tech on the road in a game that I think could be a real decider of whether or not you make the tournament if you can get that W. And then you finish it out against Cincinnati and what's potentially like a win and you're in type of situation for both of those teams. I mean, it would take TCU probably winning both of those first 2 games and Cincinnati winning both of their first 2 games in the remaining 3, which are against Oklahoma State and BYU. But it's not out of the question. 2 teams that are playing some of its best basketball right now as the season, kind of unfolds. And to your point, Kevin, like 2 teams that are probably fighting for their lives with every single game and treating every game like it's an elimination game. So that could be an interesting one. Exciting stuff. Potentially March 7th. Mark it on your calendar, people. TCU, Cincinnati. Winner and you're in.
Talk to me.
Box office.
March is near. We got big-time matchups like Cincinnati, TCU in the Big 12.
That's what you signed up for.
Last and almost certainly least, Arizona State and Bobby Hurley. Man, this basketball program in Arizona State is just it's frustrating is what it is as a basketball fan myself, mostly because
it's comedic
I
gold
feel like
is what I'd argue.
But listen, I'm saying it's frustrating because I feel like this team should have maybe lost every game to end their season. And you beat Texas Tech and you take out a National Player of the Year candidate while you're at it. It's frustrating as all hell. I hate that about Arizona State. You could have at least lost the game and kept JT Toppin healthy. What are we doing? Either way, D tier, in my opinion, Damon.
Yeah, they're a D tier team. Poor Bobby. He's going to be gone after this season, and we'll remember the memories that we made along the way forever. But that's our Big 12 tier rankings for the week, and we got some duos at the top, Kevin. Arizona and Houston in the S tier, A tier, Kansas and Iowa State just below those teams. The B tier, Texas Tech and BYU, kind of highlighted by teams that had big-time aspirations and incredible talent levels on their team, but just didn't necessarily have the seasons that you'd want, and a couple of big injuries along the way. C-tier teams that are fighting for tournament berths, I think, with 3 games remaining. And then the D-tier teams are the teams that are just not very good, and then you have 2 just atrocious garbage teams on the back end. But that's your Big 12 tier list for the week. Of course, be on the lookout for next week's tier list as we wrap up basically the Big 12 tier rankings on next week's show, or at least it will be the penultimate tier rankings.
Love that word.
So yeah, be on the lookout for that. But I think that we're finally starting to see a good hierarchy being put in place here in the Big 12 as they kind of sandwiched all of those top end games at the end of the Big 12 season.
They really did. The post Super Bowl rush, is what I'm kind of calling it, of just kind of get eyes on the game. College football's officially done. Pro football's officially done. What is there left to watch? Oh, damn it, those damn Winter Olympics. But now it's over, and you just have college hoops. No excuse to not know ball come March. Nothing else is on. Trust me, I tried to put something on in the office this morning. The only thing that was on was the CONCACAF under-20 qualifiers between St. Virgin Islands and some other team. Don't give me that look, because I tried to put it on and Ayrton was like, "What is this? There's nothing else on this TV. We can't watch a San Diego Zoo walkthrough." Now we're watching trail cam footage, but that's maybe for after the show. Neither here nor there. But Damon, like you said, that is our Big 12 tier rankings for this week. Let us know what we got right, wrong, indifferent in the comments below as well, and leave a like on today's stream if you enjoyed any of it at all. If you didn't enjoy it, leave a like as well. You know what I mean?
Drop a like for your friends here, Kevin and Damon, bringing you content every single day, damn near, right here on this same channel, PHNX Sports. Follow us at PHNX_Wildcats. Follow me at Damon Dog, that's DAWG. And follow my guy Kevin at KevoPost, that's KEVOPOSTS. Follow us on TikTok as well. Don't forget that at AZ Wildcats Pod. If you guys are on the TikTok, we are posting our TikToks from there all the damn time, and it's slowly just chugging on up, Kevin. We're
25K views on the Arizona in 2K TikTok. So if you want to be a part of that motion.
Special motion.
Yeah.
Hashtag motion on the AZ Wildcats Pod TikTok. Again, follow us at AZ Wildcats Pod over there. And in the meantime, we appreciate you guys. Please drop a like on this video. Become a diehard today at the lowest sale price point that you will get all year long. That diehard sale, $36 for the year. You get a $35 t-shirt as part of it. For $1 more, you get all the added benefits of being a diehard. So get in on that.
And join the supporters club as well, because Damon, we at PHNX, we've done a great job of pushing people to get as members. Support the channel, become a part of the cool kids club here at PHNX. But look, man, we need more Wildcats members. We got a good number. We got a strong contingent, but I want to see it grow. I want to see more DJ Tommy emojis in the chat. I want to see more, Wildcat bear down hand signals in the chat. I want to see all types of stuff. You know what I really want to see? I want to see it in the ASU chat. And we can't do that if we don't run the numbers up on the membership. So become a member, less than a cup of coffee per month to get exclusive content, members-only videos. I'm talking behind-the-scenes vlogs of the Combine, NFL Combine behind the scenes. Does that interest anybody? Saul's behind the scenes when he goes out to locations as well for big games, stuff like that. So Deborah's doing it right now in the chat. Drop your emojis. If you're not a member, become a member. If you can't quite afford that Die Hard, this is a great way to get in where you can fit in with us here at PHNX.
Yeah, so much fun to be had becoming a supporting club member, becoming a diehard as well. Just added ways that you can help support the boys here at the AZ Wildcats Pod. If you guys enjoy watching the show and are here avid listeners, yeah, it's just a way that you can kind of elevate that fandom and that experience to an entirely new level. And you get yourself a cool little t-shirt in the process. But Kevin and I are in the meantime going to be working on some new t-shirt ideas potentially with our crew. Maybe trying to get a Tommy Lloyd themed basketball one. So be on the lookout for that. We'll keep you updated as we get more information on those streets. And appreciate everybody for watching this show. Like the video. If you haven't done so already, subscribe to the channel as we're on our road to 60K. And of course, follow me and Kevin We'll catch you on tomorrow's AZ Wildcats pod at 2 p.m. Be there for that one. But in the meantime, peace out. Bear down.
And go Cats. Whoa. What was that? Was that JB Smooth?
We all silly like the mayor.